Today, my guest, you've known for over at least the last 20 years. He's a household name. You've seen him across WWE, TNA. He's your favorite Eurocontinental champion of all time, Mr. D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, how are you, sir?
What's going on, man? I'm proud and honored to join you today. I'm looking forward to just sitting down and chopping it up for a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate you truly taking the time out. I know you're busy. I know there's a lot going on in the next couple of weeks, a lot of appearances, and I just truly appreciate your time today.
Yeah, Mania season is truly the busiest time of the year, but it's one we all look forward to, whether it's if you're a wrestler or if you're a fan. So this is everyone's excitement time right now.
So going back all these years, what was it that drew you into professional wrestling, and how hard was it back then to even get into professional wrestling?
Well, what drew me to wrestling is just I love the cinema of it. And also, hey, let me be honest. I'm a young boy. I was 9 years old. I love the fighting of it. It just drew me in from the first moment I saw it. And it was something that it wasn't like other sport, which was, really organized. Wrestling seemed chaotic, and that's what drew me to it. And it was difficult to get in terms of I had to find a credible school that would allow me to train. But fortunately, being a backyarder, I had some experience with the Monster Factory and Larry Sharp. So used to rent his ring, so that kind of backdoored us in. So we got to play around the ring. So that's how I kind of fell into wrestling.
Was there anything when you first got into professional wrestling that came natural for you, or that you found harder once you were getting used to it?
The hardest thing was being in front of the people.
Hmm.
Was learning to get over the fear of being looked at by more than two people in your life. That
Hmm.
was the biggest thing for me. But once I got over that, it was no big deal. It was like being out there on the football field or on the amateur wrestling mat. It was just entertaining. Just let's go have some fun.
How long did you train before you started working matches, and did you stay in that general area, or did you branch out once you?
Crazy thing enough is I started training in, let's say, April of 2004. May of 2004, I had my first match. And by July of 2000, or not 2004, 1994, by July of 94, I was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So I literally from the first time I started training to the time I was having matches on TV was just a matter of months.
And do you feel like you were ready at that point in time?
Hell no. Hell no. Is anyone ready for that? I mean, you take a kid from a small country town in New Jersey and then you throw him in the middle of the Tennessee South and go have fun, go wrestle. And by the way, these people hate you. No, I was not ready for that at all.
When do you feel like you first started getting your name out there and getting some traction and momentum behind you?
It was during my Smoky Mountain run. That was really a part to being part of the gangsters and being next to New Jack because New Jack was he was such a figure that you either loved him or hate him or you were offended by him. But
Hmm.
so whenever he said something, pictures of all three of us would go out. So whether I said anything or not, there I was in this picture. So guilt in a good way by association.
Is there any particular moments during Smoky Mountain that stand out to you personally?
Man, from New Jack cutting the promo, thanking OJ Simpson for getting rid of two more of them, to going to Pikeville, Kentucky, and almost having a Klan rally. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I can think of from my time in Smoky that, man, if they were to happen today, the world would shut down.
Yeah. When do you feel like you started getting that attention, like from WWE at the time, and when did they start taking interest in you?
Um, that's a really good question because I had done some small enhancement work a few months before I had gone down the Smoky Mountain, a month or two probably. And then it really wasn't interest from WWE. It was being around guys like Jim Cornette and Jim Ross who were there in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and they were the ones always saying, "Keep your nose clean. There's
Hmm.
potential. There's something there. Keep working hard. Keep improving." So it was always a kind of an underlying thing, but there was never a, "Hey, you're on their radar." It was just keep working your ass off, and maybe something good will happen.
Now, how long did you do the enhancement work before they offered you a deal? And was it like a normal deal, or did they offer you what they would have considered a developmental deal at that time?
It wasn't a developmental deal. It was a per date basis. So it
Okay.
wasn't even a deal per se. It's if they used me on TV, I got paid. If they didn't use me on TV, I sat there and got nothing. So it was take whatever you can get in the beginning,
Hmm.
just so they understood you were willing to do business and get better at what you were doing.
During that time, did you work anywhere else, or was it just WWF at that time, whether they used you or not?
No, I was out doing other stuff, so I went down to Puerto Rico for a little bit. Spent a lot of time in the Midwest, in the Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Chicago areas, and really just running around there, getting right. And then it was the fall of '96 when I was in Puerto Rico that uh, I I got the call, and it was January '97 that I made my debut on Shotgun Saturday Night.
How was Puerto Rico? Is it as crazy as they all say?
Man, it is one of the last places till this day, till this very day, they still believe. If you're a rudo, if you're a heel, you're not allowed to walk down the street by yourself because you might get knifed. Um, you don't get too close to the barricades because people will throw stuff at you. I remember pulling up to the arena one time and there was this little kid. And he had this little sign written in Spanish, and I don't understand Spanish. And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And the sign says, "Rocks, 10 cents a piece." And he's selling rocks in a cup. And he's got a bin full of rocks. And he's giving them to the fans as they go in to throw at us. I
No, thank
mean,
you.
yeah. So Puerto Rico, I love the island. I love the people because of their passion.
Hmm.
I love their appreciation for pro wrestling because to them it's a machismo real sport.
Hmm.
Um, and I would have never changed or differ my time down there at all because although scary, although scary, um, it taught me a lot about the ins and outs of wrestling and being in front of a hot crowd like that. It taught me a lot.
Was there anything in particular going on at that time that they finally made the decision that they wanted to bring you up to New York and start working with you on a more regular basis?
So this is right. So let's rewind back again till late fall of '96, and Ron Simmons had created the Nation of Domination. And if you remember the original incarnation of the Nation, it was Ron Crush Savio, and then they had a lawyer, Clarence Mason,
Hmm.
and there was PG-13. And there was a bunch of guys who stood behind everybody wearing suits. Well, all those guys wearing suits were all Clarence Mason's fraternity brothers, and none of them were trained wrestlers. So when it came time for the bad guys, we, the heels, getting heat on good guys, well, the good guys could never get even with the Nation because they're not going to beat up Ron or Crusher Salvio. They can't beat up untrained wrestlers. And Clarence Mason is 105 pounds soaking wet. So that's when they needed a guy in the suit who could get bumped around. And so that when I finally reached out to Cornette right around Christmas time, he told me there was potential there and everything moved forward from that point and I became take a bump D-Lo.
How did it feel to finally get that call and do stuff like what you were this next phase for your career?
Dude, I gotta say it's probably like it's and I've never experienced it, but it's gotta be like those guys who are sitting on draft day, getting the NFL
Hmm.
draft or the Major League Baseball draft. It's like you've worked and you try to get good and you're starving and you got bills to pay and all of a sudden the Wizard of Oz calls and everything goes from black and white to color. And it's one of those things where you're like, "Oh my goodness, I've made it. I'm I'm here." Now let's stay here. That's the trick, is stay here. But it was nice to finally get that, you know, come on up, kid. We got a spot for you.
How doing that, getting the call up, how was it trying to, as a young talent at that time, did you have to sell yourself? Did they immediately know what they wanted to do for you, or was it just they were just watching you and improving as you were going on?
A little of all that. I mean, they put me in the spot in the suit and the bow tie of the nation to kind
Hmm.
of see how I would do. But then the agents were always watching me on the house shows, writing back reports on, what my attitude was like, my willingness to work with people, how did I look in the ring. So there was a constant feedback. Um, when there's big money on the line and there's any
Hmm.
money on the line, they can't afford to waste time trying to develop someone who's not going to develop. So
Hmm.
it's constant interaction to kind of see where's he at a month in, how's he hanging out 2 months in, is he fitting in? So it was everything and above and more that you had mentioned.
Is there a moment early on that clicked with you that you realized that they were behind you and ready to push you?
The moment really stood out to me. It was in South Africa, and I got ribbed by the agent on the tour, Gerald Briscoe, for being late for the bus one day, and I swear I was gonna get fired. And at the end of the tour, after I think 10 days, he told me that I didn't have to pay the fine and that I did great, and he was gonna write a good report about me. And that's when I kind of like went, okay. And I felt that there was potential there for a long-term commitment.
I couldn't imagine how travel was back then and how staying in contact with who you're supposed to stay in contact with and finding all
You
these places.
Okay, we in 2026 take for granted that cell phones work in every country.
Hmm.
Back in 97, cell phones worked in America sometimes. And when you went over to England, you had to call and have an international plan, and it may or may not work. The internet was so. Um, it was a standard part of our travel that you would pack your bag,
Hmm.
and then you would pack a roll of quarters because you'd find a telephone, somewhere, a phone booth, and make your calls home. So when you travel, and oh, let me fast forward to entertainment. There are no handheld devices. There's barely laptops.
Hmm.
You have a black and white Game Boy maybe. Um, so travel was a lot different than it is now. Trust me on that one. When you went to a foreign country, the only thing on TV was that country's language. So you just had to deal with it.
Is there any moments that mean more to you, in particular, during those early years in WWE?
I can tell you, I remember this one time when, as Attitude Era was kicking off, and I could see what was going on, but I had no bearing on how big Attitude was getting
Hmm.
until one time we flew into London to do a series of shows over there. And we're still flying commercial like everybody else, no big deal. But as we get off the plane, the whole plane is turning left to go to customs, and they have a rally point for us, and there's a guide for us. And as we all get off the plane, then we go right and we go downstairs, and now we're walking underneath the airport in Heathrow. And this is where the Queen, when she leaves the country, this is when celebrities leave the country, and we have a whole separate passport control and everything under there. And as we're walking, I see about 100 yards up from us, I see this taller black guy and this short white guy, and they're walking towards us. And as we get closer, I'm like, man, he looks familiar. And as we get within 10 feet or 20 feet, I go, it's Will Smith. And he goes, what's up? I didn't know you were in town. He looks at his agent. He goes, can we stay? WWF is here. And I'm looking at everybody going, that's Will Smith. And he wants to see us. So it was like at that moment, I realized, okay, we're a big thing now because
Hmm.
Will Smith knows who the hell we are. And then
Being,
and for those who don't know, back then Will Smith was the
hmm
biggest thing walking.
hmm
So that's
there,
that was a big deal.
being, you're getting established within WWF at that time. How did it feel once the nation was done and you were doing your singles? Were you nervous? Were you ready for that? Were did you think that they were still going to be behind you?
You always question if they're going to be behind you, and you
Hmm.
question, have I learned enough while I was in this really good, safe group?
Hmm.
Have I learned enough to fly on my own? Because think of that as being the nest. And when the nation broke up, we all got kicked out of the nest. And if we fell,
Hmm.
we fell. If we flew, we flew. Um, so you're a little concerned because you're like, I go from this stable position in the nation that's always figured in to now I've got to re-earn the trust of the locker room as an individual, re-earn the trust of the office as an individual. Um, but then it was quickly reassured to me, like, oh, we like what you're doing, we're behind you, just keep being you. In fact, turn the volume up even more, and you know that's when the chest protector became a bigger thing, and the head shake became magnified even more. So it was like these were the things that I was doing to individualize myself in this, in what I consider the greatest wrestling locker room ever assembled.
Hmm. I would agree. How did it feel that when they had enough faith in you that they're putting titles on you, and what did that mean to you?
There's no bigger pat on the back and no bigger you arrive moment than the day you walk into TV and they go, all right, you're gonna win the European title, you're gonna win the Intercontinental title. Hell, you're gonna win both of them on the same day. Um, it's a reaffirmation of the work that I've been doing, the
Hmm.
trust that they have in me, my place in the locker room. I mean, it's till this day I'm prideful of the
Hmm.
fact that I was enough a commodity that they felt they could put titles on me. So I mean, it's one of the greatest feelings in the world. And don't get me wrong, yes, um we're in a scripted business where the finishes are figured out, but those emotions are real.
Hmm.
When you win, particularly at titles, that's the 9-year-old kid in me who fell in love with wrestling, who was holding up a belt for the first time on TV for the world, for other 9-year-old kids to see.
Hmm.
That's from your heart.
I agree. Is there a particular D'Lo Brown Attitude Era moment that stands out to you personally?
I have a couple. Uh, Val Venus and myself, Madison Square Garden for the European title,
Hmm.
SummerSlam was one of our good moments. And then I will just blanketly say, anytime X Pac and I ever interacted in a ring, um, are my favorite moments, and they stick out to me. So X Pac and I just had he and I could have a 5-star match in a phone booth. Like we just
Hmm.
had that chemistry. And anytime we touched or interacted, I had a smile from ear to ear.
I always enjoyed those matches, and I think you guys helped define what that era was.
I thank you for that. We worked really hard. We wanted to make the European title the workman's title. We want to stand just like the Intercontinental title. How people thought of the Intercontinental title is, when this match comes out and you know it's for this title, these two guys are going to work their asses off and
Hmm.
deliver the highest quality match they can get. And that's what we did every time. And I'm so lucky that I got to be around guys like him and Al Snow and William Regal and British Bulldog and guys who just really believed in that title as much as I did.
As we were approaching the year 2000 and things were changing, did you feel like you still had a dominant place on the roster? Did you feel like you were getting lost in the shuffle, or like when they started tagging you with Chaz and doing all that? How was that time period for you personally?
It felt like a little bit of a step back. Now, I loved my time with Chaz. I thought
Hmm.
he and I, as Lowdown, were going to do something great. It wasn't until they put us with Tiger Ali Singh where things kind of went a little south. Um, but as an overall art, I had felt that, I was definitely in a less um, priority, high profile spot. And you're just looking for ways to try to get back to where you once were.
I mean, everyone still loved D'Lo Brown at that point in time, and everyone still loves D'Lo Brown to this day.
I'm lucky and I'm blessed. I still get it. Like I'll go to a supermarket. After this interview, I'm going to a supermarket. I guarantee you, at least one time, someone will go, "D'Lo, shake your head. D'Lo, where's the chest protector? Hey, where's Mark Henry?"
Hmm.
Like I carry Mark Henry in my trunk of my car, but um, I will get it. And this is 30 years after this all happened,
Hmm.
and it's still I'm I grew up in a sweet spot in some people's youth, and I have a font. I got a spot in their memory, and that means more to me than anything you'll ever know.
You spent some time in WWE's developmental territories at that time. How was your time
Yeah,
in OVW and
uh, it
HWA?
wa- it was awesome because it was coming back to Cornette.
Hmm.
So he got to see me, several years later, and now I'm not student D'Lo. I'm now trainer D'Lo, and I'm there helping him out. And it was a full circle moment for me. And then I got to be around a young Batista, or young John Cena, young Randy Orton, um, and to see their growth and evolution. And I've made a lot of good friends that I made back then that I still have till this very day because of the time in OVW and HWA. So I'm happy that I went there, and I'm glad that being OVW gave me the bug to try to become an agent
Hmm.
slash producer because it showed me the other side of the camera. So my time there kind of changed the trajectory of my future.
How long were you in OVW before you started going back to the main roster?
I would say about 9 months or a year, and that was bouncing back between OVW, HWA, and a little bit of Puerto Rico, and just rotating around. And yeah, just being there, being in Louisville twice a week, Thursday and Sunday for TV.
How'd you have time to sleep bouncing around? That just seems like a
Man,
lot of travel.
it's a whole lot, man. You realize how short time is when it's like, okay, drive this 2 hours, drive 2 hours back, be over here for training, hop on a plane, go down here. But again, they had faith enough in me to help train and teach the next generation. So it's fulfilling and fun.
What was it that they brought you back to the main roster? What was the plans for you then?
Let's see how we fit
Hmm.
in, and let's see if we can, do something. But we quickly realized that, at that point, I think I needed a change of venue.
Hmm.
Um, no one can miss you unless you go away.
Yep.
And I had been on the main roster for a while. Um, they hadn't done anything with a couple years, and it was like you don't realize how big the wrestling world is until you get out into it, because once you kind of get in the WWE bubble,
Hmm.
um, the world gets very small. Uh, and it was just time to go out and find new confidence and learn new hold. And that's where my time in TNA and then on to Japan fits in.
Were you nervous or scared for that transition, or did you knew that professional wrestling was something you were going to do no matter what?
I knew I was going to do professional wrestling no matter what. Now you are a little concerned because you go from the safety of being in a controlled environment like a WWE to now I've got to go out into the wild world of pro wrestling, and I've got to earn my own keep by myself, and I don't have the auspices of that company hanging over me. Now it's go find your way, kid, and it's another sink or swim moment years later in my career.
How was your time in Japan?
Some of the greatest times I've ever had in my life. The respect for wrestling that the Japanese audience have, the
Hmm.
respect for wrestling that the boys in wrestling have. Um, it was like going and getting a master's level class in the world of pro wrestling. And everything I had done up to that point laid all the foundation for what was the next 6 years I was going to spend in Japan, and just changing everything the way I think about it. And man, to have been fortunate enough to get in the rings with some of the greatest Japanese talent, um, from Misawa to Kawada to Kobashi to the great Muda. I mean, on and on and on. Like to hear myself say those names that I was in the ring with, I'm like, who the hell am I talking about? So yeah, man, if you've not, I'm gushing over Japan. If you haven't figured it out, I love my time there.
Did WWE keep in contact with you during this whole time, or where did the interest in the return come about after?
I always had connections. I could always make a phone call, see how I was, if I was on anybody's radar. I've always had that ability to make that phone call. So it was just go out, see how you're doing. And when they saw something they liked again, then we'd have a conversation. And it's like, okay, do we think we can come back now, or do you want to wait a little longer? So it was just a little open dialogue.
Were you happy when you went back to WWE and you got the reaction that you got?
Oh, I was ecstatic because you remove yourself from 6 years from this fan base,
Hmm.
and you don't know how they're going to react, if they're going to remember you. 6 years, that's three generations of fans turned over. That's
Hmm.
you don't know if people are going to remember you. So to walk out in Chicago and get that kind of reaction on night one was pretty awesome.
Did they have any initial plans for you during your second stunt
There
there?
was there was a bunch of plans and ideas, and just none of it came to fruition. And we quickly realized that it wasn't good. We weren't fits together anymore. And at that point, my body was starting to kind of feel it
Hmm.
a little bit. So I was like, maybe I should start looking at the next evolution of my career.
And how was your time when you went to TNA and what you're up to now?
Um, TNA, I'll give all props to Dixie Carter, Jeff Jarrett, and everyone was there. They embraced me and took me in. And when I told them I really wanted to work on the production side, they were all for it. And they're like, we'll give you an opportunity to learn. And from there, I learned the basics of being an agent all the way up to becoming the head agent of the company by 2012. So, and then I people don't realize I spent more time in TNA wrestling than I've done
Hmm.
with any other company. People just
Hmm.
don't. It doesn't even compute to people. I've spent on and off the better part of 15 years with TNA wrestling, and I love my time there. I've got to watch that company grow and survive and fight,
Hmm.
and now finally flourish. And so I couldn't be prouder of them as a company, or where they've come from, or the idea of where they're going. So, did I enjoy my time in TNA wrestling? Hell yeah.
What is it in particular for you that do you love helping people and working with people, being an agent and working backstage?
I try to explain to everybody like this is if you ever had a child, you've taught your child how to
Hmm.
ride a bike. That's what it feels like when you help someone put a match together and you watch them on the screen. You're like a proud dad watching your kid ride away. And it's like, everything I put in, all this work. Oh my, look, they're going to be, and just that feeling of living vicariously through that young kid and knowing the journey he's on.
Hmm.
And I know that feeling. So it's like I get to relive it again. And then watching the kids' eyes light up when they get something and they're like, there it is. Like that teacher in me loves that. And I swear to goodness, watching kids go out there and work their tail off, it almost feels just as good as me being out there. Like that's what I get when I'm watching it. If those who ever see me at the monitor watching matches I've put together, like I'm cheering and I'm bring it home. Like I'm into it because I'm a fan having fun watching this young kid learn his craft.
Where did the conversations with WWE come back into the picture to where we're getting action figures, you're in video games, you're doing all this? And how does it feel that people still want D'Lo Brown all these years later?
That's an amazing thing to me is so to one first part of that question, we started talking, I want to say 2016 or 2017 about being on what was they were then calling, I forget what it was called, but eventually became the Legends deal. And I've been
Hmm.
on one of those forever. And that first action figure came out, and it was the video game 2K16. I think it's the first one I came out on. And just to have to see the online response of, oh my God, I can't believe you're in the game, or you got a new action figure. First of all, I'm to this day, I'm floored and shocked that one, people still remember me. Two, people still want to buy merchandise that represents me. It's humbling.
Hmm.
It's humbling in the fact that, again, I go back to, I was in that sweet spot of a lot of people's young
Hmm.
wrestling lives, and I did something right where they remembered me, and that's pretty damn cool considering the number of wrestlers that come and go. The fact that people still remember me enough to want to put down money to buy my action figure or download me in the game or be happy that I'm on the brand new game as a non-downloadable character. You it's humbling. It's humbling, and just again, I'm blushing with pride.
What are you up to today? Who are you working with? What's your main focus with wrestling today?
Still, I do a lot of work with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. By the way, just got a national TV deal in Canada, which is a huge deal. And then I do a lot of seminars. I travel around the country speaking to young talent, trying to help them avoid some of the pitfalls that we did in our generation, just to help you know, sharpen their learning curve a little bit,
Hmm.
to say this the least. I do some work out in Denver, Colorado for Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling, in Texas for Texoma, and out here in California for 3PWA. And those are really the places that I kind of hang out, other than traveling around the country doing my seminars.
You're still just as busy as ever.
Look, I'm knocking on wood here because I would rather be tired from working a lot than sick and tired of doing nothing. So keep me going. Keep me going.
Where can people reach out to you at?
You can always get me on X, Twitter, whatever the heck it's called now, at D'Lo Brown 75. And you can get me on Instagram at D'Lo Brown LFC. And on there, I talk everything from what's going on in my life to showing clips to just telling you what I'm doing today. So if you have any questions, reach out and ask me. I'm interactive. I don't mind interacting with my people out there in the universe.
If you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Here is the thing. Um, I would tell them this is your dream and nobody else's. So no one's going to believe in it as much as you do. Work your ass off, train, invest in yourself, because the more you put into yourself, the more you'll get back on the other end. This business is not easy.
Mhm.
It's full of ups and downs and pitfalls. But if you weather the storm and you get good at what you're doing, then this world can be opened up to you. And there's no greater feeling than traveling around the country, or traveling around the world, knowing you're about to go entertain a whole different city. That's pretty cool. So
Mhm.
just keep up the grind and keep working and don't quit. Don't quit.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time out today. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do, sir. It's been an honor to speak with you today. It was an honor to watch your career over these years, and it's an honor to see that you are still just as popular as ever because you deserve it. All the things that you've done in professional wrestling, you deserve to be doing what you're doing today.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm humbled by my popularity as an old fat man who was once famous. Um, but I appreciate it, and I hope the fans know that every day I gave my best. Every day, I, no matter what was going on in my world, as soon as
Hmm.
I walked through the curtain, the only thing that mattered was your world, and that's the only thing I hope fans ever remember about me.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time today, sir. And if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on, and keep up doing the good work. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.